Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're undertaking a pretty critical mission, actually. We're charting the course through what our sources are calling, a seismic shift in how digital experiences get conceived, built, and even maintained. We are talking about agentic AI, or AAI, and its impact on UX design. For the longest time, the job of the UX designer, it felt like the bedrock of our profession. It relied on this predictable loop, right? Human intuition, structured research, wireframing, testing, manual iteration. It was very much a craft based on careful, measured steps.
And that whole model, it's being completely overhauled. I mean, the shift isn't just about iterating faster. It's really about autonomous evolution. The core of UX is moving from being, manual and purely human-driven to being co-created, automated, and fundamentally self-optimizing. The design artifacts themselves are starting to improve themselves.
That idea right there, self-optimizing design, that feels like the key. And it pivots entirely on really understanding agentic AI because, we've had AI tools helping designers for years now. So how do we define agentic AI? What's the crucial line it crosses that, say, traditional AI, like a simple content generator or a chatbot never did?
Yeah, good question. Agentic AI represents intelligent systems that are defined by their capacity for autonomous reasoning, planning, and decisive action. But within a specific domain, think of traditional AI more like a highly sophisticated calculator, maybe, or just a tool that takes a single prompt and executes it.
Right. Like if I prompt a traditional AI, summarize this research paper, it executes that passive command. It's basically waiting for my instruction.
Exactly. Agentic AI doesn't wait. It takes initiative. So if traditional AI was, let's say, an assistive tool like a really fancy GPS helping you navigate, agentic AI is more like the personal assistant. You give it the high-level goal, I need to get to the conference efficiently, and it autonomously researches the best flight, books the car rental, routes around unexpected traffic jams mid-journey, and adjusts the whole schedule without asking for permission at every single step.
Okay, that changes the paradigm completely then. It interprets a goal, comes up with a multi-step plan, executes tasks independently, and this seems critical, adapts that plan based on real-time outcomes.
That's the critical action loop, yeah. As one of our sources put it quite nicely, I thought, it's not waiting for commands, it's acting with purpose. It's programmed to pursue a defined objective, whether that's, maximizing conversion rates or improving accessibility scores. And it achieves that goal by constantly learning and iterating on the live product flow.
So if the system itself is designed to execute and adapt the iterations, the designer's role moves profoundly. We're not the executors anymore, are we? We become more like orchestrators, setting the strategic goals and maybe the ethical boundaries for these continually evolving AI-driven processes.
Exactly. We set the agenda for the agent. We define what good looks like, basically. And then the agent figures out the fastest and most effective way to actually get there.
Okay. So if AAI defines the goal, the first place that autonomy must really revolutionize the workflow is, I'm guessing, in the research lab. Our sources suggest we're moving from those structured kind of post-test reports to more of a flow of continuous real-time knowledge. Let's dive into these three major transformations happening in UX research right now.
Right. So the first big one is continuous, real-time insights. Forget waiting weeks for an analyst to compile a report. AI agents can monitor live user sessions, how you're scrolling, where you might hesitate, even micro-gestures sometimes, and they instantly flag patterns. And not just flag them, but generate actionable recommendations. These aren't just data points, they're suggested iterations, delivered right as the negative or positive behavior is actually happening.
Wow, that speed just completely collapses the time to iteration. It makes design cycles effectively instantaneous.
Okay, so the second major change you mentioned, autonomous user testing. This sounds like the agent becomes the research coordinator itself.
Precisely. The agents can handle all that tedious and complex logistics work. Things like recruiting participants based on highly specific demographic or behavioral criteria, designing surveys tailored to the current product focus, even conducting deep dive interviews. But the truly agentic behavior here is its ability to adapt the research protocols mid-study.
Mid-study. Give us an example of that. How does that adaptation actually work? Okay, say we hypothesize that adding a specific trust badge to the checkout flow will increase sales. Now, if the agent runs the first, say, 50 sessions and sees that hypothesis is confirmed with high confidence after just maybe 2 hours, it doesn't just sit there and wait for the full test duration. It automatically pivots the study. It might start testing a secondary hypothesis, maybe changing the badge placement, using the remaining pool of participants. It optimizes research efficiency on the fly.
That is profound, because it means the research itself is adaptive, not just reactive. Okay, now, The third transformation, synthetic user personas. This one sounds maybe the most abstract, but potentially the most powerful.
It could be. It's sort of the ultimate proactive tool. Agentic AI uses massive amounts of aggregated behavioral data, voice, tone, click streams, multimodal feedback to emulate highly accurate synthetic personas. Now, these aren't just fictional sketches designers draw up. They are models that can actually simulate future behaviors under different product scenarios.
Wait a second, though. If we're simulating users, aren't we running the risk of just building, like, better echo chambers? How do we make sure this synthetic data doesn't just reinforce existing structural biases we might have accidentally fed the model?
That's a really critical challenge, absolutely. And the source material does emphasize the need for what they call adversarial agents. So systems designed specifically to find and test the blind spots of the core simulation. The value, though, could be immense. It helps designers anticipate needs before real-world data or even actual user segments emerge. It allows for instant stress testing of new, maybe disruptive ideas against thousands of behaviorally accurate users. It's like rapid prototyping for user validation itself.
Okay, that continuous data-driven feedback loop. It naturally bridges us into the design execution phase then. We've talked automated research, now let's talk the actual execution. This is where the product is no longer static, but becomes, as the source described it, a living ecosystem.
Absolutely. And that living ecosystem really starts with adaptive prototyping. So unlike the Figma or sketch files we're all used to, agents can create high-fidelity prototypes that change dynamically based on test feedback during the session.
Okay, give us a visceral example of that automation. What does that actually look like for the user who's in that test?
Right. So imagine a user is on a landing page. The agent detects, maybe through mouse speed and hesitation patterns, that the user is struggling to find the main call to action, the CTA. The prototype agent doesn't just log that as an error. It might actually change the primary CTA button color, say from blue to a high contrast orange right there, mid-session. Or it could increase its font size. And then it instantly verifies if that change improves the microconversion rate for that specific user segment.
Wow, that's iteration at the speed of thought, practically. And this must have huge ramifications for our core assets, like component libraries. I mean, we've all spent hours maintaining static design systems. Our design tokens are almost sacred.
And they still are, in a way. But the system managing them becomes intelligent. We shift from static component libraries to systems that expand and refine the underlying structure automatically. For those listening who might not be familiar, design tokens are essentially the universal variables, color codes, font scales, spacing values that define a design system's look and feel. Now imagine an intelligent system that doesn't just store those tokens, but updates them autonomously. Let's say new regulatory accessibility rules come out requiring higher contrast ratios. The agent could automatically scan the product, adjust the hex codes of the relevant color tokens, and push that update across every platform without needing a designer to manually check hundreds of components. The system is proactively, self-healing.
And this capability has to extend beyond just the design tool itself, right? Otherwise, we're just building a very efficient old garden.
Correct. Yeah, the final piece of this living ecosystem is cross-system collaboration. Autonomous agents sync design decisions seamlessly across the entire enterprise stack. So if the design team iterates the onboarding flow based on some AI research findings, that agent could automatically update the engineering backlog, notify the analytics dashboard of the new A/B test parameters, and maybe even cue the marketing platform to adjust ad creative associated with that specific new user segment.
So the synthesis is, wow, we've potentially built a completely self-improving, data-informed product ecosystem where the entire value chain gets automated. Now, okay, we absolutely have to talk about the elephant in the room, the inevitability that I'm sure every designer listening is contemplating. With so much being automated in research, iteration, execution, where does that leave the human designer? Does this seismic shift mean we're obsolete?
Well, the sources are pretty unequivocal on this. Far from it. The rise of agentic AI isn't really about replacing human creativity. It seems more about amplifying it by abstracting away the highly repeatable, detailed execution tasks.
So we're moving away from the granular work, like moving pixels and defining single flows, and moving towards higher order thinking, like defining the architecture for the intelligence itself.
Absolutely. The focus shifts. It goes to setting the creative vision, defining complex strategic goals, and really shaping the human-AI collaboration flows. These are areas that inherently require human judgment, empathy, creative direction skills the machine simply cannot replicate. Not now, maybe not ever.
Okay, this means the job titles of tomorrow are probably already emerging. For listeners who want to kind of lead this pivot, What are the key emerging roles we should be preparing for? Maybe the top three.
Okay, three key ones come to mind from the sources. First is the AI experience designer. This person focuses specifically on designing the interaction model between the human user and the AI agent. They make sure the handoff between machine autonomy and human decision-making is smooth, intuitive, and crucially trustworthy. They're essentially designing for collaboration.
Okay, AI experience designer. Got it. Second.
Second, the AI research strategist. Now, you might ask how this is different from a traditional UX researcher.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Well, the traditional researcher often spent, say, 80% of their time collecting and aggregating data. The strategist, instead, might spend 80% of their time defining the core hypotheses the agent should test, validating the findings the agent brings back, and ensuring the autonomous research aligns with the bigger business objectives. They become the strategic director of the knowledge flow rather than the primary data collector.
Right, directing the research instead of just doing it all. Okay. And third, given all this talk of autonomy and speed, the ethical UX architect must be absolutely essential.
Absolutely essential, yes. Because autonomy, while powerful, introduces significant risks. When systems operate independently, if they're given bad data or faulty parameters to start with, bias can propagate exponentially faster through all those automated iterations. So we need architects who are constantly defining and auditing the system's guardrails, making sure it stays fair and safe.
So human oversight isn't just about reviewing code anymore. It's about defining transparency and auditability in these potentially quite complex, maybe even black box systems. What are the practical tools and guardrails designers need to implement to manage this complexity?
Well, system transparency has to be paramount. The sources point specifically to things like explainable AI dashboards or XAI dashboards. For your listening, these dashboards are essential because they give us that audit trail. They allow us to see precisely why the agent chose, say, pattern A over pattern B, rather than just having to trust a black box result.
That visibility seems key, especially when the system is making complex decisions without constant intervention. What's another critical guardrail?
We need to focus on trust calibration. This means actively managing the user's expectations about what the agent can and can't do, especially when the system is capable of learning and inevitably making errors. Think about it. If a user thinks the agent is perfect, but then it makes a mistake, trust is shattered. But if the user understands the agent is learning, they're generally more forgiving. So designers must incorporate transparency in the interface about the agent's current confidence level, for instance. And finally, maybe most importantly, designers have to implement consent-driven data design. With systems collecting data autonomously to refine themselves, we need really granular, explicit user governance over what the agent collects and how it uses that information for its own self-improvement.
That really brings us full circle, doesn't it? We're entering a phase where the digital product itself seems to have agency. Agentic AI isn't designed to replace us. It seems like it's here to empower us to scale our judgment and creativity through experiences that learn, adjust, and grow with literally every single interaction across the entire customer journey.
It's this profound relationship, isn't it, between human insight setting, the creative direction, the ethical agenda, and machine autonomy handling the relentless optimization. That combination is almost certainly what will define the next decade of digital innovation.
So the frontier really isn't just about designing for users anymore. It's about designing with intelligence, which means we have to define not just how a product works today, but maybe what the ethical framework should look like for a product that is designed to self-improve, potentially forever. Think about that for a moment. The responsibility, that level of persistent, autonomous learning places right back on the initial designer, something to really mull over.